symmetric cryptography. So symmetric cryptography, what it says is that it's also called as a shared key or a shared key cryptography, where so Love has already, as he was saying, he has already covered this in the past, but I'm just going to throw a light on here because there were some confusions about public keys and private keys, and before I dive into that, it just makes sense to talk about this. So let's assume from this diagram, which I have very poorly made, please excuse me, this was made on MS Paint. So I am not a graphic expert. You have two parties here. There is an A and there is a B. Yeah.
Just zoom in a little bit on the diagram part itself. Yeah.
Let me just.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. A little bit smaller. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. So what essentially we are saying here is that there are two parties, A and B. So A has a text that he wants to send to B. Now this is what we call as a plain text or a message. And both A and B have a shared key. So what is a key? A key is the unique value or the unique sequence of bits of symbols or sequence of bits that is used to encrypt a plain text and convert it into a ciphertext. So they have a shared key. This key is shared by both A and B. A uses this key to encrypt the plain text, convert it into a ciphertext. The ciphertext is then shared with B. B then uses the same key to decrypt and convert it into a plain text. Simple enough. This is called as symmetric cryptography or a shared key cryptography. A couple of algorithms that can use this symmetric mechanism are called as Blowfish, Rindal, which is the AES uses Rindal function or mathematical algorithm to implement symmetric encryption, DES, and RC series of encryptions, RC1 to RC6.
Just to add, somebody, I think Mohammed, he was asking the practical use case of this. So just to add here, the practical use case of symmetric encryption is basically used in the banking sector. So payment applications, card transactions actually use this encryption. Okay, Mohammed. So you can understand this better. Okay.
So yeah, so the idea of having a shared key is that it's very fast. We'll discuss the pros and cons. Let me first discuss the pros and cons, then we'll talk about what you guys. So the pros and cons here is that it's a faster process. It requires lesser resources. The operation is simple and has a security aspect to it. The disadvantage, as most of you would have guessed it, that it has one common key. So there is always this problem of the compromise of this key, the theft of this key, the losing of this key. So the key distribution, key management becomes difficult.
Yeah.
So right. Yeah. So I have from to different parties that I'm interacting with, I have a different key. So I have to manage all of these keys and even the distribution and storage and all of that. So the key management in itself becomes a challenge.
Yeah. And just to add more use cases to this, as I said, in transit, banking applications use this cryptographic method to do payment transactions, and this is for data at transit, as we discussed. And data at rest, BitLocker application uses this type of cryptography. Okay. So hope, Mohammed, you are happy with the examples now, real life case scenarios.
I mean, yeah, and one good example is that TLS uses SSL and TLS you must have heard about, which are used for encryption of the data in transit. TLS uses a combination of both symmetric and asymmetric for encryption. So it's not that symmetric is not used anymore. It's that it depends on what operation do you need to perform, or the sensitivity of the operation, or the logistics or the feasibility of the operations, where you want a quick and the sensitivity of the data that you want to protect is where you apply the separate algorithms. Right. So now a very valid question that might come, and I'm sure if I don't discuss this soon will be coming in the comments, is So you talked about that this is a shared key, but how do you share this key then? I mean, it's okay. You talked about key management and all of that jargon, but how do you actually exchange a key in a symmetric key encryption environment? So a lot of us have heard about a concept called as a Diffie-Hellman algorithm. So it was developed by two gentlemen, Mr. Diffie and Mr. Hellman. So I had a chance of meeting Mr. Diffie quite a few years back. He was here in India for a conference, and I attended his talk, and I had a chance
Really?
of meeting him. Yeah, yeah, very much so.
Oh
Very
my
much
God,
so.
I wasn't aware
And
of this. Cool.
yeah, yeah. So and it was a great session, man. I mean, it's a humbling experience for me to be able to meet such a person and talk to him. But yeah, anyways, I'm digressing. Really
My
sorry.
dream is to meet Ankit Fadia. He's kind of an inspiration for me. So I'll probably meet him one day. I'll let you know if that happens. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Go for it.
So yeah. So talking about how do we exchange this key in this asymmetric environment. So a good so there is a confusion point here, and I will address this. Diffie-Hellman encryption algorithm in itself is an asymmetric algorithm, which I have not yet discussed. But Diffie-Hellman is used for key exchange. Understand the concept of key exchange. If you're saying there is a shared key, then it has to be exchanged in some way. So to understand the concept of key exchange in the sense of how a Diffie-Hellman implements it, I'm not taking this in a very for anybody who wants to understand or who has ever searched to understand Diffie-Hellman in a simpler way, Wikipedia has this best image that is out there. This is very common. Even I have shared, because I could not find a simpler way to explain this key exchange. Is if we take an example of two different colors or two different there's two people A and B who want to exchange some information. Now there is a concept of so I have a common paint, then A has their own secret color and B has their own secret color. When I mix this common paint with this specific secret color, I get different colors for A and for B, assuming that you transfer or you exchange this color, this mixed color with each other. After that, you mix your own secret color with this to get a third kind of a color, and both A and B will, the final color that they will get is the same. Now B, the sweet thing here is this is the secret common shared secret key that we are talking about. B does not need to know about the secret color of A. A does not need to know about the secret color of B. Yet they have gotten a common secret color. And anybody who gets hand on the secret color in itself does not know the secret color, the common secret color does not know the secret color of A and the secret color of B. So this is kind of a key exchange in a asymmetric algorithm at a very basic level. We can discuss this in detail maybe a little later or maybe in the next session, because I don't want people in the very beginning to start leaving this session, because if I start going into the depth of it. So we discussed the pros and cons of symmetric algorithm. Then we come to an asymmetric algorithm, which is also called as a public key cryptography. So here we have a concept of that both parties will have their own public key. And just bear with me, I'll make this as simple as possible, and you can ask questions about asymmetric key right now. You can have your questions, or even after this we will wait for a bit so that this concept is very important now. Yes, an alert to anybody who is kind of sitting here to know about what the questions are asked from a job interview. Asymmetric versus symmetric key cryptography is a very most commonly asked question in cryptography with anybody. So if you can't explain this, then they kind of get a feel that you're not really good in cryptography, or they kind of it goes in that sense. So in asymmetric key cryptography, what we are saying is that both parties, I hope love this is visible. Should I zoom in a little bit? Okay.
Yes, little bit zoom will work. Yeah.
Is this better?
Yeah, better.
Okay, so what I am saying, basically to sum it down in one line, is that I am in there is a concept. Sorry, before summing it down, let me explain the concept of a public key and a private key. So every entity has a private key and a public key. A public key is available to be used and shared with other people. A private key is the key which is only known to me as an entity. So every entity that is involved in an asymmetric cryptography has a private key and a public key. A public key that is like public. The name in itself says public, so that is distributable, that can be shared with people. But the private key is the key which I hold to myself. I will explain the need of it. So what happens is, if I have, if as A, so for our sake, the green man is A and the red man is B. And the keys, I have tried to color it in that fashion. Again, excuse me for my bad taste in colors. That the green depicts the keys specific to A, and the red and the orange is specific, kind of like the red side of the colors are the keys specific to B. So what we are saying is that if A has to send a message to B, A will encrypt the plain text with B's public key, obtain the ciphertext, send the ciphertext to B. B will use his private key to decrypt the text back to plain text. Now, how this works is, because the public key and private key are determined and generated by they share a mathematical function. The lengths of the keys are different. The parameters of the keys may be more or less, or they may have shared parameters. Some may have more parameters in themselves, some may have less. But since they are derived from a mathematical function, a text that has been encrypted with a public key will be decrypted by its corresponding private key. Now the key, again, it's a pun. The key over here is the so the key concept over here is that the private key should be the corresponding public, should be the private key corresponding to its how would I say, a public key. So they have been generated from the same function, and they are as a pair. So yes, this is to talk about asymmetric cryptography. Example would be Diffie-Hellman, a quite famous and popular algorithm, even recommended in industry, is RSA. For that matter, GPG is used for signing emails. SSH, we all know, stands for secure shell, is to access servers or administer servers remotely through an encrypted channel. So a recommendation, a little tidbit to people out there is that when we say Telnet is a service that was used quite a few years back, and it was used for remote administration and accessing a shell, but it used to have clear text. It did not use to encrypt the channel. SSH is the replacement for Telnet, which says that it encrypts it, and SSH now uses asymmetric cryptography. So now you know. You might have known about SSH, but now you know that SSH uses asymmetric cryptography.
Also, just to add one, public common use case would be digital signatures. Digital signatures use asymmetric cryptography also.
Yes, love. And now you have created this question as what is a digital signature. I will cover this, and it's a very common misconception. People get confused in. Again, you are talking about encryption, and then what is this digital signature thing people keep talking about? I see this certificate authority that is there in place, and then there is a digital signature. For my website, I am putting digital signatures, but I don't understand the concept for it, because it's like an operational thing. So we'll discuss this as well. I have deliberately kept this over here, and we are going to discuss this in a flow, so that after this you get a clear understanding of what a digital signing or a digital certificate is, and how is it different from a encryption.
Okay, I hate to interrupt you, Akshay, but I think a couple of questions are coming up. First thing is Trisha Srivastav. She's asking, how do we use symmetric encryption in TLS?
So the initial trust establishment in TLS is done, is the symmetric cryptography, or the symmetric encryption part of it is to establish the initial trust in TLS. So when we'll be, if we discuss TLS communication in detail, which if we get time, I can tell you the
So Akshay, I think I have sent you the link. If you can just open that window and quickly explain her, I think it will just take 2 minutes. I have sent you the link on WhatsApp. You can open in this window only, if possible.
Okay.
Otherwise, we can skip it at the end.
No, it's not a problem. We can do it, but it kind of.
Yeah, just a couple of minutes because I think it has the handshake mechanism which you are telling about. People will
You're
have
talking
a
about You're talking about TLS handshake.
yes
Yeah,
TLS
so we are
handshake.
going. So I have the whole TLS handshake mechanism in
Ah,
place. I'm
okay.
going to
It's
explain the
covered.
whole
Cool,
process.
cool, cool,
I'm going
cool,
to,
cool.
yeah.
Okay,
So
okay,
that's there. We just have
okay,
to
okay.
wait for it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, go for it. Okay, okay.
yeah.
Other question was from Ankush Chavan. So Ankush was asking, this is what he's understanding, right? So he wants to know whether his understanding is correct or not. He wants to say that symmetric encryption is used to encrypt the actual message or data, and asymmetric encryption is used to encrypt the key which is needed to be shared. Is this right?
It happens for all things. Asymmetric is also used for key exchange as well. Asymmetric is used for encryption as well, and it is also used for. I mean, both of these things are there.
So there
So
is
there is a
no
concept of
standardization.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a concept of the authentication part is not handled by the symmetric key, and the authentication part is handled by the asymmetric cryptography. And there is a concept of a session key as well along, so that to ensure a secure key exchange, which we will discuss right after this. So I guess people are getting a little jumpy because
Yeah, yeah,
people have come
maybe.
in with a lot of questions, and
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
understand. But
These are
just
long outstanding questions, Akshay, which nobody has answered them. So they are coming here with a hope. So we
yeah.
will
So
not
no,
leave
no,
them. Yeah.
definitely no. I in fact I encourage it. So what I'm saying is, just allow me a couple of minutes. Just
No,
let
sure.
me
Take your time.
walk
Yeah,
through till we come to digital signature and a key exchange. I will
yeah.
then pause. I will then pause for a bit, and then we can discuss all the points in detail, so that then people have an idea. Because I can understand they might not know what I have in store coming in further.
That's the true
So
story. Go ahead,
yeah,
Akshay.
so
Yeah.
what if the question is answered in itself? Otherwise we can discuss it, because it's a forum. So not to discourage anybody, and I apologize if I came off that way, but just to say that have a little patience, because it's a heavy topic, and we are still on what I think the ninth slide of the 21 slides that I've made. So let me walk you through it. I've tried to make it as simple as possible, and then we can have a discussion for it. Okay. So then, what are the pros and cons of asymmetric? Is that the key distribution becomes a little simpler, even authentication, integrity, and security is there. And but the problem with it that it requires more resources, because now you have separate keys and you have to talk about key management, key distribution. So it requires more resources, and it's a slower algorithm, which was the pro of a symmetric algorithm. So now, again coming to the concept of digital signing. So digital signature is actually to say that whether I am the person who has uh, is to show that the authenticity of you can verify the integrity of a text through a digital signature, is to say that you know that the person who is interacting with you is in fact the person that you intended him to be. So you have a message with you, that this diagram shows people A and B. They have a private key and a public key. The B has his public key and his private key. And what I'm saying is that so previously, if you look here, for encryption, what I was doing was I was using the public key. A was using the public key of B to encrypt it, get a ciphertext, and B was using his private key to decrypt it. I hope everybody is okay with this. Public key was used for encryption and private key was used for decryption. Now in digital signing, what I am doing is, if I am sending a message, I am saying that there is a digital signature that is generated for this message. Along with this message, I am generating that message. I am signing or generating this digital signature through my private key, and B can use my public key to verify whether this has been sent by me or not. So private key does implements an encryption algorithm, or let's not say encryption, a signing algorithm on the message, which converts it into the message plus a signature along with it. Now, when B receives this message along with the signature, he can then use public key of A to verify whether this message has been sent by A or not. Now, mind it, in this case, the encryption has not happened, so the message is still exposed. So this example just talks about the digital signing aspect of it. So anybody who got confused in the sense that once you are saying that you are using the public key for encryption and then you're using private key for decryption, and once you but there is also a concept of private key being used and then the public key also being used. This is the difference. The signing aspect says that if I have to encrypt it, I am using the recipient's public key and he can decrypt it with his private key. But if I have to send him the message so that he can actually verify the message in itself, I am going to sign it with my private key, and he will be able to verify it through the public key. The jargons here are important, and it is very easily confusable. Any doubt here? Anybody sitting or listening out there has any specific doubts for this digital signing and asymmetric or symmetric?
Muzaffar is asking, can you again explain asymmetric? So he's still not clear on asymmetric cryptography.
Okay, yeah, no, that's understandable. It's
and actually, just to let you know, this video has already crossed 100 views, and at least 10 likes are already there. So we are just in the middle of this video.
Wow, I appreciate you guys. I mean, just for that, I'll explain asymmetric cryptography.
Go for it.
Thanks, Muzaffar, man. A pleasure. Let me get back. And people have patience. I will address everything. For people who are sitting, don't leave. This will be a refresher for you, because you need to get this concept nailed down in your head, so that even in your sleep, if somebody asks you the difference between symmetric, asymmetric, public, private, digital signature, from now on, without even referring to a text, you're able to answer them. So what we are saying in asymmetric is that there are two parties, A and B. You have A holds a private key and a public key. B holds a public key and a private key. Now, the concept of public key, that is it is available for everybody. So now A gets a hold on A wants to send a message to B. So what A will do is, A will take the public key of B. He will encrypt the text using A's public key. But this text will only be decryptable by B's private key, the corresponding private key. So through asymmetric cryptography, cryptographic algorithms, it is true that you can generate keys. You can generate the keys that are the key pair of a public and a private key. The public key will be used to encrypt the text which A wants to send to B, and the private key will be used by B to decrypt the text. Does that make sense? Is that clearer?
Akshay, I think give a live example, sending maybe an email or something which, from point A to point B, so that people may be able to relate it better. Just for an understanding point of view.
Okay, I mean, it's as simple as that. If I'm sending an email, I can use GPG is used to encrypt emails, so I can use a GPG as an algorithm, or a software that uses encrypts emails using GPG mechanism. What I can do is I will typically at the end point, the encryption software is sitting, and when the email leaves, what they are using is they are using the public key of the recipient, and they are encrypting the email message. So when it goes in the transit and somebody is in the man-in-the-middle scenario or attack, and when he tries to sniff, he will not be able to read the contents. And when somebody receives it at so there will be a client, GPG client listening. So the GPG client now knows that he has used my public key to encrypt it, and now I have the private key which is specific to B, and he will use that private key to decrypt it. And when the pop-up comes in front of in the email chat or email client of the user, they will be able to view the email. So this kind of encryption happens even with the softwares, the email clients that you use. This level of encryption happens in the background.
Okay.